I have spoken on several occasions at several events, both nationally and internationally, but this is an incredible event. This tops. It's really wonderful to see so many of you that I have come to know by names and so many I've met before in various occasions. But to see you all today, I thank you very, very much, and thank you to Tasneem and you all, and Tarunji. So I'll try and share my story, and in the hope that I can touch your heart and maybe give you a new perspective of life. It all kind of started on 17th of July 2019, while I was admitted for a relatively minor surgery called foraminotomy to release a nerve, entrapped nerve on my left shoulder. And I was meant to be in for one night and be off for about 2 weeks. But when I woke up from the surgery, I just could not feel my legs. Instead, I felt a lot of pins and needles. I remember calling the nurse. The nurse came in and I told her what's happening. And she said, "Don't worry, doc, it's probably just the anesthetic." And I did believe her. And it carried on, got worse in the morning. The surgeon came, I told him the same. Surgeon repeated what the nurse said, that it's probably the anesthetic. He started me on dexamethasone 16 milligram. I carried on. By the evening it got worse, and I remember exactly the lines I told you. I said, it's like wearing a tight, wet underwear, about 2 times less my size. And I just couldn't feel it. But anyhow, I tried my best to be a patient because, as we know, normally doctors and nurses do not make very good patients. I didn't want to be a bad patient, so I carried on. It was about 4 days when he did decide to get me an MRI scan. And when the scan was done, the initial reaction was by a nurse saying everything was fine. You just need to carry on with the medications. And I felt relieved. I remember Millie was there all these days, very worried. She went home to offer her prayers. And then the surgeon came rushing in about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, saying that I've just discussed with my colleagues, and unfortunately we have to do some emergency decompression. And we don't have those facilities here, so we'll have to transfer you to another hospital. And just like as you'd see in a trauma movie or something, I was blue lighted across the Dartford Tunnel to Queen's Hospital in Romford, where I had a much more major surgery. And after the surgery, I could feel a little bit of my legs, but I could not lift them. I kind of had this intuition that this is going to be a marathon, not a sprint. Things are going to change from now on. And I knew that this change would not only just affect me, but it's going to affect my whole family, all my near and dear ones. 2 days after the surgery, the physiotherapist, with aid of another assistant physiotherapist, got me to stand up. I just kind of wobbled on my legs, stood up. They said they needed a bed for some other trauma patient, and I was sent home. What hurt me the most was that the surgeon did not show his face to me. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, all my colleagues, I'll tell you, if things ever do go wrong, as it might in your practice, please don't hesitate from showing your face and speak to the patient. I have learned that the hard way as a patient, because it is fine, things can go wrong. I have been unlucky and things went wrong. But what hurt me the most was that this doctor did not come to even say, not even a sorry. I didn't want a sorry. I just want him to just say that, yes, things did go wrong and I'll try my best. Anyway, moving on, I was discharged. I came home. 2 days later, tried to get out of bed. I fell down. I was readmitted again. This time again, it was under another consultant who saw me, and he said, there isn't much we can do, you just have to carry on. At that point, my very good friend, Dr. Mehra, who was my next door neighbor at that point, he referred me to L.I. Silver. And I went to see L.I. and I must say, when I went to see him, I wasn't very optimistic at all. I went on a wheelchair, but I remember him calling me by my first name, and the first words he said was, "It's a privilege and a big responsibility to treat a colleague." I won't ever forget that. And Ella got me admitted to Wellington Hospital because he just saw the scan and he said, "You have got a spinal cord injury, and I think things are pretty bad. So either I need to get you to Stoke Mandeville or to Wellington. So let me try Wellington." Fortunately, I had Bupa insurance and I got admitted to Wellington. While I was there, I think it was the second night, by that time I could hardly move. I could not move my legs, I could not do anything, get out from the bed myself or anything like that. So I needed to go to the toilet. It was about 11 o'clock at night, and somehow the bell on the side, it fell from the bed, and I could not reach it on time, and I wet the bed. And I was quite ashamed of myself, but I somehow did manage to finally get to the cord and call the nurse, and this time I really wished that it would be a male nurse who would come in. But in came a trainee, quite petite, quite beautiful young nurse, lady nurse, and she was very kind. She stripped me, she changed the bed, and she did everything in the most professional way. But I just felt so humiliated, not because I was stripped by someone or I was helpless, but also for the fact that I realized how many times have I done the same to my patients during my training or at other times, but I haven't realized. I was just so mechanical about it. I think you probably would share the same experience as well. How many times have you done that and you haven't realized what must be going on in that patient's mind at that time? Anyway, that was the time when I kind of realized that I have got two young kids. My daughters at that time were 12 and 9. So I just can't give up. I have to do something. That was probably the first glimpse of hope, thinking that I can still make some use of my remaining life. That's when I started thinking about writing, and I started getting onto audiobooks, which helped me quite a lot. Then it was about a week or so. I think it was about the 10th day or so, I remember. By that time, I had made quite a good rapport with all the nurses in the station, and I was kind of a sort of case study for them. A doctor being there, because Wellington Hospital, if you know, most of the patients are from Middle East who come in for the stroke rehabilitation and stuff like that. Or cerebral palsy patients, and I was the only doctor who was admitted with a patient there. And one of the matrons, she came to me and she said, "Doc, would you like a copy of your reports?" I said, "Yeah, why not?" I remember I was listening to a heavy metal song at that point, and she came in with a report, and I was going through the pages of the report, and on one of the pages it says, "Likely malignant tumor in the thyroid." And that report was filed a week away because the doctors were concentrating so hard on the pictures of my spinal cord, nobody actually saw the report. So I think there again is something for all the doctors, all my colleagues. I would suggest do look at the radiologist report, who try very hard. There are lots of radiology colleagues here. So I called up Eli at about 9:30 in the evening, and I said, "Eli, I think I've got cancer." He said, "No, it can't be." I said, "Yes, I have. I think the report was filed away, but you don't worry. I'm not going to make any complaint or anything, but if you can get me a biopsy tomorrow, maybe we can sort things out." So he had a go at his resident, and the resident came running, apologizing multiple times. I said, don't worry about that, it happens. Anyway, so things were sorted. I was quite lucky that it was quite early stages, and he then referred me to an ENT surgeon, and I went to yet another hospital. So I was at the Guy's Cancer Center where they took my thyroid out. So I had my throat slit quite a few times in the space of 1 month. But it was the diagnosis of cancer when I had it. It was almost kind of enlightening to me. I don't know why. My first worry was, of course, how I would share this with my family, because the cancer has so many negative connotations. But the insurance was in Millie's name, so I had to tell her. So I did, and as you'd expect, there was a lot of crying and all, and my parents, my brother, everybody thought I was going to die. But anyway, it was, I think not many people go through that experience of self-diagnosing two life-changing conditions within the space of 1 month. And as you would expect, I went through all the grief reactions of feeling self-pity, despair, angry, upset. I think the questions of why it happened to me and what did I do wrong. But somehow, maybe because of seeing the sorrows of many other patients as a doctor, or maybe it was the fact that I was just lying in the bed mostly by myself and listening to books and whatever, it gave me time for reflection. I thought there is always somebody worse off than you. Whether we accept it or not, we are all control freaks in a way. And it is easy to be in control when things are going well. But it is when things go wrong, that is exactly when we need to be in control. That's what I tried to do. We cannot really control what life throws at us or the universe throws at us, but how we react to those curveballs define who we are and what we make out of our lives. And that was the moment of reckoning. I thought maybe if I could just find a way to vent out my feelings and maybe heal a couple of other people on the way, as well as healing myself, that might still give me some worth out of the life that I've still got to live. I always had the fear of being half dead. I never really feared about dying, because I think although we've got ChatGPT and everything else, we still haven't found what it is like to be on the other side. So I was quite interested in finding about death, and in fact I had written many things about death ever since a child, but my fear was being half dead, because I saw my dad being paralyzed, hemiplegic after a CVA in his 50s, and he lived on for 21 years on a wheelchair. So that was my ultimate fear. And you must have heard about the law of attraction. What you fear the most, that's what happens, and probably that's what happened to me. But I could not be like my dad, who gave up the moment he had the stroke. He just never tried to walk. But I had to try. I had the young kids. I still remember one time when we were going to a clinic, and I just wished that I could just crash into the next car and just take the easy way out. But that moment, I had a flash of my younger daughter Nikita's face. And I think the feeling lasted just for a second or two, but it really made me ashamed that I was trying to take the easy way out. And I decided, no, I will fight on, I will try my best. That's when I started writing. And as I started writing, I don't know whether I hit a chord with some people, but the responses were quite overwhelming. Anything I put on social media, especially on some of the doctors' groups, mainly the Resilient GP group and a couple of other doctors, career groups and all. So I used to get 300-400 comments on there, and people used to say that you need to write. And I remember, because I couldn't afford the treatment at Wellington for too long, so Bupa stopped financing it after a certain point. So my only option was to go to India, and I went to Kerala, to Kochi, for Ayurvedic treatment. And that is where actually I got better. I was there for nearly 3 months. Again, a lot of time for reflection. They got me to stand up. They got me to take a few steps with the Zimmer frame and then with 2 crutches. And I remember when I came back, and I just landed at Heathrow, and I turned my mobile on. And there was this message from a lady doctor whom I have never met, but the message was so touching. She wrote that I just went for the London Marathon, and when it was about 3 miles to go, I just wanted to give up. But at that point, I remembered your writing, and there you are, who can't even walk, and I've got the privilege to run, and I'm still giving up. So I did continue, and I managed to finish, and I dedicate my medal to you. And that was probably the first time when I realized that there might be some strength in my pen, in my words, and I do need to continue. That was also the time when I did my MBA, because I didn't have much better to do, but doing the MBA actually made me realize quite a few things about myself and about managing people and managing myself. So I just finished a 15,000 word dissertation, and I never thought I'd be able to write a book for 45,000, 50,000 words. But I did write, and I was assigned an editor by a publishing company whom I met through LinkedIn. And in April 2022, this was born, which has given me a new life, new identity called the Second Chance in Life. Thank you. And by grace of God, the Second Chance in Life, it became a bestseller on Amazon in 6 different categories in 27 countries. And since then on, I have been invited to several places, from places I have never even dreamt of. I got calls from Afghanistan, I got messages from Palestine, that sort of thing, where I have been speaking to Red Cross, I've been speaking to various charity groups and stuff like that, who say that they have found something strong in this book. So anyway, I think whether it was a higher calling, or whether it was just destiny. From where I was seeing 45, 50 patients a day as a GP, and I was known in that part of Kent. Now many other people know me, and I have been able to touch their hearts. Of course, it is very difficult on many occasions when I miss my medicine and not being able to do things. Because that was the only thing I thought I would be able to do. But I think what is important as the message for all of you and for myself is that we just don't know what lies round the corner. It is important to enjoy every moment of life as it comes. But at the same time, the best time to check your leaky roof, is when the sun is shining. It is important to worry about the future, but it is also important to enjoy your present moment. Because whatever has gone yesterday is just a memory. Whatever is going to come tomorrow is an imagination which may or may not happen. The only moment is this moment that we are sitting here. That is the reality. And we need to appreciate every bit of it. I probably wasn't able to appreciate my good times because at that time I was just working away all the time. I was working 15, 16 hours a day, running 5 practices. At that time, I got my name on Kent Messenger and a couple of other papers as the highest earning GP in Kent, and probably rubbed up some wrong shoulders as well. But I missed seeing my daughters growing up. I missed enjoying those good times. What is for us to decide is whether we want to be a mile long and an inch deep, or we want to be an inch long and a mile deep. I have tried to do the latter, and I hope everybody will have their own ways or own reasoning for doing whatever they want to do. An eagle, if you know, rises above the turbulence and flies at a higher altitude when there is a storm, whereas the dormouse hides in the corner. It is for us to be that eagle or to be the dormouse. It is for us to decide what we make out of our lives. There are two types of things in this world. One, which we can control and which we can change, and the others which we can't change. For example, if you are on the road and somebody comes and drives into you, you can't control that. If somebody else, I have been called a cripple. I have been called several names. I cannot change that. I cannot change somebody calling me some names. But what I can do is to control how I react to it. And that is what I'm trying to do. Our energies are finite, so therefore it is important to focus on the things that you can change and make those positive changes in your life rather than moan about the things that we can't do. Because again, always remember, there is always someone worse off than you. Our psyche is like that we only tend to remember the bad things that happen to us. If we have 9 good things happen during the day, but one bad thing, we would only remember that one bad thing. But it is important to enjoy those 9 other good things that has happened as well. Because you never know whether those 9 things will happen again or not. If you really want to be one for learning, then I remember my brother, he passed out as an engineer from a place called Ichalkaranji near Kolhapur in Maharashtra, and there are many people from Maharashtra around here. And when I visited his college, there was a plaque right at the entrance which says, "Learning place ahead, leave your ego behind." And that is something which stuck with me forever. If we really want to be a lifelong learner, if we really want to do something positive in our life, we have to leave our ego behind. We have to be like water. The water which can take any form in the tumbler or the vessel that you keep in, or it can mix with anything and take that color. It gives life, it flows silently without making any noise, but it can erode the strongest rock that is in its path over a period of time. It can also cause a flood and a tsunami. So if we can be like that water without the ego of those small things in our daily life, then we will be able to appreciate the much bigger things in life. When I understood the fact that this disability is going to be a lifelong thing, I knew there were lots of things that would need to change. Things like my house, my car, the things like the fact that I could not walk the dogs anymore, I could not run for the bus, or I could not play with my daughters, anything. But what really needed to change was my mindset. And that is what I have tried to do over the time. Acceptance is the first step towards any journey of redemption or a journey of success. That does not mean that we will be very happy with the condition we are in, but if we can accept and then start our journey from that point of acceptance, then I'm sure our journey will be much less bitter than what we think it will be. The competition should not be with others. It should not be like somebody else has got a better private practice than me. Somebody else is earning more than me. What it should be, like I should be a better person than what I was yesterday. If we can live with that, if we can deal with that, I'm sure you won't need any external validation. You don't need to wear branded jeans or branded clothes. What we need is branded thinking. If we can do that, I'm sure our lives will become much more meaningful. That is what I'm trying to do. And I hope I have been a bit successful in what I have tried to do so far. It is, again, it'll be wrong if I say that I am positive all the time. I am not. Millie probably sees the worst side of me at times when I feel down and depressed. But something happens on the day I really feel down and depressed. I might get a call from someone. I might get a message from someone who says that I have made a difference. I do get calls from lots of doctors, lots of non-medicals, both from within the UK, from India, and other places, and that makes my day. I think that still proves that I have got some worth. I have had numerous assessments by different neurosurgeons, neurologists, general medical people, and they have told me that because of the fastening myelopathy of my spinal cord, I have got at the most another 5 to 6 years before I'll be completely confined to the wheelchair, or I need a long-term catheter. And they say my lifespan has gone down by about 10 years. But believe it or not, it has actually spurred me on. It has almost given me an urgency to tick off my bucket list. Because now I have to intensify my timetable and I have to do all those things that I had planned to do much more quickly. Because life should be big, not long. So ladies and gentlemen, that is what I wanted to share with you. If time permits and the steam permits, then we can take some questions. Thank you. If somebody wants, yeah. Can I take questions?
Of course.
Yeah. Sorry, any questions from anyone?
Sorry, I think all of us need a moment to take that in right now.
Okay.
I certainly do. But absolutely, please do go for your questions.
Yes, please, Gautam, and then you
pass it on then.
Thank you for sharing your experience. I was very motivating and powerful. How did you motivate your children? Because I think when you're mature enough and have seen life, and all of us have seen patients and seen things happen to other people, we can get that level of maturity and reasoning, etc. But with children, because they can be so impressionable, how did they navigate your illness, and how did they come to terms, and how did they view it?
And that's a very, very important question. And in fact, I'm sorry that I should have mentioned a bit more about my family and my children, because without them I wouldn't have survived, I wouldn't be here. And I think this generation of children, they think a bit differently to what we do. At least the way of expressing is different. When I was in Wellington Hospital, we had made it a rule that they won't come to see me more than once a week, because every time they came, it was quite traumatic. Even Millie was told not to come more than once a week. And I noticed that when they came, they would spend most of the time outside the room. Because, and I felt quite hurt initially. Why they've come to see me after such a long time and they're not even interested in coming inside the room. But it was only later I realized that they actually didn't want to see their father in this way. So that was their way of expressing. My younger one just says, why do you need crutches? Why can't you just get rid of them? Why can't you be like everybody else? And it is very heartbreaking. But I think over a period of time, I think they have learned that my father is a bit different to others, but that doesn't mean he's any less than others. So I think that is the important bit. And we have tried, between me and Millie, we have tried to give, to make our children as independent as possible. I think the best thing you can give to your loved one is to make them independent as you can. And that's what we have been trying to do. And hopefully they will learn.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please, sir.
Oh, thank you. So, really, really good, inspirational talk. Thank you. Sorry, can you hear me? Thank you for the talk, as I said. We always have this conflict between time, family, and money. How do you balance those? Because you need all three, really. But some, you know, your wife wants your time, your kids want your time, but you need money to support them, and then you need your own time. How do you find that perfect balance?
I think it's a very subjective thing. So it is very, and it took me a long time to realize that. I think money is, it's up to you whether you want to live with your needs or you want to go live with your wants. Because it's a very fine line between needs and wants. And once you go over to the want, then it's a never-ending thing. On the other hand, if you can live within your needs, then you can live within a certain amount of money. Money you can lose, it will come back. But it is a means to an end. If you aim for the money, and you're chasing money, it won't come. But if you give quality, if you work hard, if you work smart, if you give quality, then money will come as a byproduct. But it cannot ever be the end of it. Time, however, once it's gone, it will never come back. So it is up to you how you use your time. As regarding family, I think that is also very important. But again, that is something I think things change as we go into different age groups. As we grow older, maybe when they're young, they need more time. When they're older, when they are teenagers, they don't need as much time. They will in fact feel you're encroaching on their space if you want to give them too much time. But yes, it is very, very important that you are able to prioritize what you need at that point. It is important that you have enough for your future. I think because I worked hard during that time and I saved and I diversified, and that is one thing I forgot to mention, diversification is very, very important in your life because that is the only way you can reduce your risk. So do not invest only in your medical career. If you can diversify into other things, which I'm sure, as Indians, we do have that inherent thing and we do all diversify. So do try not to put all your eggs in one basket, but it is important that you do prioritize what you wish to do. Thank you. Yes, sorry.
Hi Bhaskar, thank you so much. So I just want to share Bhaskar story and how I was inspired with Bhaskar. In the last 2 months I had a back injury with sports and I was actually in the bed and I couldn't move much for a couple of days, and at that time I actually started listening to Bhaskar's book on Audible. So I did not know who Bhaskar is till that point, till 2 months ago. And I was lying in bed and not able to do much, and actually started thinking worst. Once you have an injury like that, you think, oh, am I going to ever walk or am I going to do things? And so I was reading Bhaskar's book and immediately I had a connection that a lot of family things, a lot of children, we have 2 daughters and how my father was unwell. And I just kept listening to the book, and the next 2 days I finished the book. And then I had this urge to talk to Bhaskar, and I called him as I started going back to work after, within 4 or 5 days I was back to work. But what that 2 or 3 days did to me is a lot of reflection overnight. You're lying in bed, and suddenly you're thinking about what life is and what we are all doing and everything. And Bhaskar's story, in fact, if you haven't read the book, I would highly recommend it, that you should read this book or listen to this book. There's lots of things, life lessons that we've just heard, that you learn. But what I want to really say is thank you to Millie. Okay, thank you to Millie, because I think we don't appreciate this enough. Thank you to Sushma and all our partners and family. What they go through when we are suffering, or what impact that has, that is actually the most valuable lesson that you learn. That actually in our life, nobody is more important than our immediate family. And that's what is there for us, close friends, close family. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely, Saurabh. Very, very well said. I think family and real friends, and I put an emphasis on the word real. Family and real friends are the closest thing in flesh and blood to God. We haven't seen God, but if you have somebody who understands you as your partner, or you have real friends, that is the best thing you can have. And it is during these adverse times you know the value. So yes, I would completely second and agree with your thought that family is very, very important. Our partners are very important. Friends are very important. And without them, we cannot be what we are. Absolutely. Any questions, or otherwise I'll hand over to our next speaker.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Bhaskar.